Welcome to another episode of VGN Weekly. Members of the Virtual Grip crew will recap the previous week's races and bring us one-on-one interviews with racers, league owners, and commentators, as well as others from within the sim racing community. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's go find some grip.
All right, hello and welcome to VGN Weekly, episode 62. I'm Lowell, Jewell, and that's Josh. And today we'll be discussing league ownership and all the ins and outs and headaches and rewards that come with it with our guests Alan Wannamaker and Ed Foster. But first, the reviews. Last Sunday, OBRL was at Richmond. I honestly didn't see that race. I don't think anybody else did here either. So Josh Robinson was the winner in that one. And Tuesday night, Yesteryear Racing's IROC series came back to life. Race 3 of 4 at Atlanta. And the winner in that one was Tom Ogle, and that just happens to be your league. Alan?
Yeah, it was a great race. I think we had 14 drivers of the 15 that qualified, and Ogle was pretty fast. He came through in the end on his birthday. It was his birthday that night, so it was happy birthday, and look at me win this race.
That's cool. And Thursday, Jeff Aho wins at New Hampshire in the Red Light Racing League's Skitter Creek SK Modified Series, and that just happens to be Josh's league.
Yeah, no, it was a good race at New Hampshire. I thought the setup from Team 53 was pretty good. The way the different driving lines were in that kind of deal, and just people saving their stuff towards the end. And I was personally holding Jeff and a couple other drivers up in third or fourth spot for a little while. He was able to finally get by me, and just he found the speed to be able to beat out Eric Stout and Brian Bianchi there at the end. So good job for him.
And Saturday night, the Bootleg Racing League stayed out west. They were at Urbandale last week. They were at Kern Raceway this week, and James Lowe won that race. And it was pretty boring for James, but behind him there was a lot of paint swapping and door banging going on. It was an awful fun race. So congratulations to James Lowe on that one. Let's talk about leagues. That's what we're here for. League ownership, adminning, all that good stuff. I know Alan has Yesteryear Racing is new this year, I believe, and you've got 2 series going on over there. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're in the second year of we ran the tour mods last year. That was all we did at Yesteryear to get it off the ground. So we're in the second year of the tour mods, but we did kick off an IROC series this year. Again, it lasts the whole year, but it's only 4 races where champions in series from Bootleg, from Red Light, from OBRL, from Yesteryear, and from VLS iRacing League, which is Victor Lane's old league, where they qualify and they get invited to participate. So that's been the new series this year, but it wasn't a heavy lift again because it kind of follows history, and there was only 4 races in history, and there's only 4 races this year. So it's kind of what we've been at this year is with respect to what's new.
And Ed is. You told me you answered this question, and I don't remember the answer. But you're not outside of Skitter Creek Drivers Club. Are you doing anything down there in Australia as far as leagues go?
No, not at the moment. I did for around about 8 years. Ran a fairly large stock car racing league over here in sort of the Oz NZ region. But right now, just working on the Skitter Creek Drivers Club with yourself.
Yeah. And Ed came to me about doing that. I had a GT racing league going on that was participation was falling off a cliff, and I was thinking about shutting it down. And Ed came to me and said, "Hey, I got this idea," and like a dummy, I fell for it. but it's been great so far. What's the plan with that? And what are we doing now in there?
Yeah, well, I mean, the point behind that, I think, with you've obviously got your ecosystem that sort of revolves around VGN and the leagues that are associated with that, which are all obviously oval leagues. And then, of course, you had this outlier of the GT league. And I think that when that started to tail off, I started thinking, because I know you talked for a little while about potentially shutting that side of things down, but wanting to get something going on the road. So I guess the idea behind it was really just to find something that was going to be easy for people to get into, because most of the guys that are in your area are oval racers. So we want to come up with something as easy as possible to help them make the transition, where they weren't going to have to buy any new content. They weren't going to have to, get up to speed with a really difficult car straight away. So we're like, okay, let's use free cars, predominantly free tracks, get everyone together and have a good time. So it's a good opportunity for people who are sort of a bit interested in road course racing to get over there and have a go. And at the same time, there are some road course guys in there who are, who really enjoy that type of racing. And of course, using the cars that we use, the racing's always really close as well. So that's essentially the, I guess, philosophy from which it was born from, something that people could get into very easily for minimal effort.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun too. Little short 15-minute races, two of them at every event, and the racing's been close. You don't really have a lot of time for everybody to get spread out. It's been very respectable racing. On top of that, it's been I haven't had that much fun road racing in a long, long time. So I appreciate what we're doing, or I should say
Yeah,
what you're doing.
and VIR is a great track too. I never really, I mean, I kind of knew the one aspect of the track. I think the sort of traditional, but there's so many, different ways you can race VIR. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I that was always a track for me that I I tend to ignore it, and I'm not sure why now. But since we've been running and of course, like any road course, the more you run it, the more you know it, muscle memory, all that, and it just gets more fun as you go. But I have really come to love that track. It's a lot of fun, no matter which configuration we use.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should probably actually explain as well for people who don't know why we're talking about VIR. So the whole premise behind it is we're sort of looking to emulate. People may be familiar with the old VIR Country Club that they run there. And so we've sort of adopted VIR as our home track. It's a free track. So we run every season. We'll run a good few races there on the varying layouts. So that's why we're talking so much about VIR in connection to this. We do go to other tracks, but VIR is definitely our home base.
Yeah, I love that idea too. Giving yourself
Yep.
a home track that has so many configurations, and coming back to it every other race or every couple races. So far, it's worked well. Um,
All
Josh,
right.
you started Red Light Racing League, or maybe somebody else started it. How'd you come about
So I
doing
actually didn't start it. A guy named Jeremy Patterson started it back in 2014, with essentially the same goal and idea that we have now, just for come out and have a good time racing, clean, respectful racing. It's really all it was about. We started small fields as 5 cars a week, which is perfectly fine if the racing is clean, and just kind of worked its way. Over time, grew and grew. With most leagues, you get your core group of drivers over time. It was just a couple years down the road that Jeremy decided that he wanted to expand out to different things in his life. And where I had so much fun racing at Red Light, I just asked him, I'm like, instead of just shutting it down, do you have any interest in maybe handing it over? I'd like to keep it going, because we all know how hard it is to find a decent league sometimes, and this really fit the mold of what I wanted. So I'd say I've probably been a league owner or admin for probably 12 years or so. And just, kept it going with the core values that he had. And honestly, it's the same rule book that we have now. It really, not much has changed unless we felt it really needed to. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much the story of Red Light. Just keeping it going, clean, respectful racing, just having a lot of fun. We've done everything from, we started off running like the Xfinity car for an entire season. Then we went to the Cup car. Then we went to the truck. And now our Monday night primary series is what we call a scrambler series, where we now run the next gen car, the Xfinity car, the truck, and the ARCA car through a 15-week schedule. So if you want to win a championship on Monday night in the scrambler series, you got to be running good in all 4 cars. You can't just be good with one of them. So that's where we're at now. Obviously, we have expanded a few years back with our Thursday night SK Modified series, the Skidder Creek SK Modified series. Having a lot of fun with that as well. Obviously, you know me enough. I'm a big short track racer, so I loved it when we got that going off the ground, and having a lot of fun. But that's pretty much the story of Red Light and where we are now.
And I guess we can break some news on the Scrambler Series front. They'll be coming to VGN in 2026 Monday nights, and we're looking forward.
Nice.
We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
That'll be another champion for Alan to recruit into his IROC.
Yeah, I mean,
his
that's-
IROC
absolutely.
series. Yeah, which I think Alan's been cheating all of us the way
I have
he's
been, yeah, I've
started
been
his league.
cheating, I
Yeah,
know.
see the rest. We'll
Well-
touch on it later, but the rest of us go out here and scrape and claw for drivers, and Alan just comes and steals them all from other leagues, which is a brilliant idea, though. I mean, what better way to grab drivers is grab them out of established leagues and
It's not a bad idea, to be perfectly honest with you, just
No, it's a
because
great idea,
and
yeah.
in every league there's going to be certain guys, and then if you go and do like a one-off race with some of these guys in another league, and you go, man, I loved racing with them, but the last thing I don't like to do is essentially poach drivers. Like I don't mind if people come in and be like, hey, I was, thinking about inviting him to this, and I'm perfectly fine with that, but there's always the person that'll come in and be like, all right, I had fun with, these 5 guys. I'm going to come and try to just take those away, and they're mine now, and you can't have them anymore. Things like that. I've never believed in that, but it's just like, Alan, you never made it some kind of like sugar coated thing. You're like, this is my plan. This is, my idea. You came and it's like, hey, what do you think? And I'm perfectly open to that kind of stuff, because
Yeah.
working together with other leagues, I think creates a bigger, group in general. And sometimes, we all want to race places, and sometimes it's like, oh, Tuesday night doesn't work for me running a league, but my guy
Right.
has a Tuesday night that he can run, and I can go now, oh, hey, Alan's got this, the series that's running on Tuesday night. If you're interested, check them out. Things like that. That is what I think is really cool about league stuff.
Yeah, that was the big thing for me is, and I know this is a G-rated show, but, Tuesday nights are not the best night. But if I was going to do this and I guess invite people from leagues that either I raced in or was a part of to participate in yesteryear, I was going to do it on a night where they didn't run a series. So Bootleg, Red Light, OBRL, none of them run on Tuesday nights. Now, obviously, I've had a couple of issues with that because we have had a couple race nights. One of them was IROC this year, the road course, where it was an iRacing update on a Tuesday night. And, so that's kind of tough to deal with. But, at the same time, I made sort of a pact that, no, I'm not going to race. And, we don't race every week either, but I'm not going to race on a night that the leagues that I'm sort of view as sort of in now kind of a partnership with, and we help each other out and do stuff. I'm not going to like race on a night they're already racing. So that was sort of the reason for Tuesdays, even though Tuesday's a little tough at times.
Yeah, update nights can definitely be a difficult one, just because you never know, and sometimes it could be a 10-minute update where it's a quick, like, once you go on an update, it takes 30 seconds and you're done. And there's other times they run it and they did one update, and you know how it goes. Anything computer-wise, you update and you fix one thing, you've now created 10 other animals, and and then next thing you know, I definitely understand why a lot of leagues try to stay away from Tuesday night sometimes. But just as you said, if you're trying to create such a thing and trying to be respectful, which first of all I appreciate greatly, but you know, you got to do you in your own, but that whole trying to fit so many different leagues and be respectful to all of them, I do have to give the appreciation for that, because I know it's not easy to do, but I got to say, with the what I've seen from yesteryear, and I've raced a couple of them myself, a lot of fun to race with those guys, and to get to race around some guys that I might not normally race with from other leagues, and just see the different kinds of the talents and racing styles and all these different guys that, you know, we all have the same goal, but it's just done
Yeah.
a little differently. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's
Yeah, and the numbers at yesteryear have it's a little shocking actually, because it's Tuesday night.
Yeah.
You're butting heads with all of iRacing's official series as far as
Yeah.
viewers and broadcast, and also bringing in guys to actually race.
I know Lowell, and I know you didn't really. You were kind of skeptical at first, the Lowell, because you only race 15 races out of a whole calendar year, and the whole idea of taking a summer off and who's going to come back, or we're missing 2 weeks and then come back, are people going to come back? And to be honest with you, I was skeptical about that as well, but I was sort of banking on the fact that maybe the rate, first of all, anybody that likes modifieds, tour modifieds, there's not many of those series out there. So maybe that, along with the quality drivers that we got from the various leagues, would be enough for people to come back. And we're up about, on average so far, about 3 drivers than we were last year. So we're probably averaging about 25 this year, which is pretty good for a modified series.
Yeah, and like I said, just Tuesday nights got to be the
Yeah.
worst night of the week. I wasn't really skeptical. I just thought to myself, I don't think I would do that, but maybe Alan knows something I don't. But
Hey, if it's working.
Yeah, if it works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But yeah. So, how did you come about choosing your card and genre of racing for yesteryear?
So I've always been a tour mod fan. A lot of people know I grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. That's the home of Bowman Gray, the Madhouse. I grew up going to the track, watching, Junior Miller and a lot of the Myers, Gary Myers, the Myers, Burton, Jason's father, and there's a lot of history there. And modified racing would probably be dead in the South completely if it wasn't for Bowman Gray, because it's kind of coming into a renaissance these days. But so long and short is, I've always liked modifieds. I never really found a league that would do, tour modifieds. I mean, I know Red Light does SKs, and they have done tour modifieds before. Mondays and Thursdays are a little tough for me sometimes. So that was, I can't attend regularly, although I do race there sometimes. But that was it. It's just sort of the love for the car, short track. It's grassroots racing, on the East Coast, the Northeast, the Southeast. And it's the oldest form of stock car racing, to be honest with you, in the United States. So the whole thing just, and I'm a big history fan, so it all fit. And I'm like, I think I'll try to do a modified series. And some people are like, you're crazy. There's just not enough people that are going to do that. And so far we've lasted. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, short track racing. That's honestly, outside of dirt short track racing, asphalt short track racing has got to be the hardest form of racing there is.
Yeah.
The decisions happen so quickly. The reflexes have to be there, and it's constantly door to door and bumper to bumper, and it's hard to find guys that can race it and will stick with it, and everybody's, I guess, kind of scared to go that route. So that's why some people were probably saying that's probably not a good idea, that it won't be successful. But hey, there's a lot of short track fans in sim racing, so I don't know how it couldn't be successful.
Yeah, I can't blame it right there. I grew up doing the same thing, so I definitely see where he's going. I grew up Stafford Motor Speedway, so I completely see the interest in the short track stuff, especially the modifieds. So kind of going back a little bit, Lowell, did want to mention to ask you how BRL came to be and all that stuff. How long ago did you start it, and everything to go with that?
That was in 1876, I think. I'm not far off. It was 1994. internet was barely a thing. Home computers were barely a thing. We were so looking forward to Windows 95 that year, and
Uh,
yeah, the internet was, of course, dial up, screaming modems, and
don't pick up the phone.
so yeah, yeah, you get a busy signal every time you call somebody because they're sim racing. But uh, we we did what we call offline racing back in those days, where everybody got the 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 parameters from the league owners, and they would set up AI races using those parameters, and then send in the results to the league owners, and then everybody's results were compared and came up with winners and losers and points championships and all that stuff. So that's what we did for quite a few years before the internet was stable enough to do this. Racing, sim racing, and on in the dial-up days, it was like a Christmas tree. All the blinking lights. It was blinking cars. Everybody was blinking in and out. Didn't know where everybody was at most of the time, but it's amazing how far it's come. And I had always been a short track racing fan and wanted to do that. So we were using at Papyrus, we were using the Gen 4 car, which was the NASCAR car of choice in the Cup Series. And there was a lot of modders out there that were making short tracks all over the country, and they were really good. And uh, so we used that car on every short track we could find out there, and that's how BRL got started. It went on the shelf for when Papyrus announced it was closing down, and then a few months later they announced iRacing was going to be a thing. So I shut it down and brought it back to life at iRacing in 2012, I think, and it's just grown outrageously crazy since then. Um, you mentioned we mentioned recruiting earlier, and how Alan's cheating his way his way his way through this. On your previous leagues, Ed, uh, how did you go about recruiting drivers with a new series?
Well, first of all, I seem to have gone a bit low def on you all, so apologies for that. My camera seems to have decided to spare everybody give everyone the small mercy of seeing me in high definition.
But
But
you have to
yeah,
deal with me. Unfortunate.
in terms of recruitment, like when I was running the NASCAR league over here, this is not NASCAR country over here, and until such time as SVG showed up over there, although there was a little bit of a boom there when Marcus Ambrose was over, like, in terms of attention in this part of the world, but we were trying to essentially build an oval community from scratch, and of course, as we all know, one of the unique things about oval racing is if you've got a couple of people out there who don't know what they're doing, it's very, very easy to spend your entire night running under caution. So it was very difficult to sort of to get a bunch of people together and educate them to the point that they're actually able to run ovals consistently. And some people just would not get with the program. So we didn't really advertise it far and wide. We took over, I guess, the core base from another oval league that had sort of set itself up and then decided to shut down. So we did have an initial core group there that we were able to sort of work on and build on. But we elected to allow it to build via word of mouth rather than sort of advertise it out to everybody, because there's a big clash of cultures there as far as the way that a lot of Australian people see racing and the way that NASCAR style oval racing works, and a lot of people just can't gel with that. So if you look at the supercars culture, it's very sort of heavily, which is the predominant culture over here in terms of racing. It's very much, cry to the stewards about everything that if somebody bump and runs you, it's the end of the world. The very first thing was to actually get people who didn't mind that kind of thing. It was okay to have a little bit of bumper contact. A lot of people couldn't get around that. And then it was also the piece where, people didn't understand, like in our first race at Talladega, people were trying to send it in on the apron in the turn and then wonder why it didn't work. Like, legitimately I literally had to get on the radio in the first race. I said, if one more dude goes and says that they're below the line, I'm booting you, right? Because this is the stupidest crap I've ever seen in my life, right? And like they're actually doing that, like they're sending it down there, and even at places like short tracks like Martinsville or whatever. They're trying to send it in under brakes, and that they think that the B pillar rule that sports car racing has and supercar racing has is actually a thing. It's like, and so you've got guys just turning in because the guy isn't at their B pillar. He's like, oh, he's going to get penalized because he's not far enough up. It's like, guys, that is not how it works, right? So, there was a bit of an education piece there for sure. And we didn't want to be trying to do that with a huge group of people straight away. Other leagues that have come and gone over the years have gone about it different ways, but we were sort of very much a word of mouth type of thing, where people would get involved, they get their feet under the table, and they'd say, okay, this type of racing is actually pretty cool. And then if they invite a friend, then a lot of the teaching and training and sort of explaining to that friend how all this works is done by that guy's friend. It doesn't fall on me or one of the other admins to do it. So we had our battles to begin with, but once you start to get, all you really need is that good core group under you. Once you've got that good core group there that shows up every week, it gives you a really good foundation to build from there, I found.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, getting that core group is where all the work and the fun comes in. But once you get there, things become a lot easier as far as bringing in new guys. You don't have to bring in 10 at a time. You can bring in one or two, and you don't really have to go out there and promote the series. Basically, your core group sells it themselves, and things get a lot easier at that point. Back in the day, before Discord, I don't know if Red Light was around in those days or not. How did you guys, as far as building the camaraderie and all that goes with that, what kind of program did you have? Forums or email lists, or how did you go about doing that? TeamSpeak?
So we had TeamSpeak back in the day. We also had a Facebook group that it's like a private group of just all the drivers that were part of the league. People that were trying to get in would apply, and we would send them a message being like, we're going to run these recruitment races, because that's how we do our recruiting. And if we're trying to find some new people that aren't word of mouth from a core guy that's already there, we'll host recruitment races. And if you do a recruitment race, I have to recommend to anybody who might be trying this out, expect anything in a recruitment race, because you're gonna get everything. Especially the ideal place that a lot of people like to look at is either super speedways, your big mile and a half like Charlotte, Kansas, things like that, places with plenty of room. It seems ideal. You're going to get a ton of people, if not max out the room. That's generally how that's going to go. However, just because they join the session doesn't mean they stay the whole practice and actually race. And then all those spots are taken up from the people that showed up thinking they're going to be the one lap wonder, realize they're nowhere near as fast, and they leave 5 laps in. All that kind of stuff. Expect the people, if you're doing a recruitment race, just expect to be sitting in the booth and watching for who knows what is going to happen. I've been around long enough.
Yeah.
Lowell, I know you have too. Alan, you've probably seen it. Probably Ed too. You've been around long enough. I mean, something's always going to surprise you. I don't know. I don't know what the worst one is. I think the worst one, without using any names, is had one of our regulars. We were doing a recruitment race at Stafford, and name that came up. A lot of people know it. Fast guy. Not gonna lie, anything like that. He had a guy or two that was just ahead of him, and he was kind of driving away a little bit, and I don't know if he got flustered, whatever the thing was. All of a sudden, you see him take a hard left well before turn 1, flat out into the corner, and he's trying to take out the leader, like just blowing through the grass, just gonna meet with him. And of course, the guy leading saw this happen, jabbed the brake. The guy went sailing past into the turn 2 wall, and then all F4'd immediately. Like it was baffling. And I'm just now I've been doing this for a long time. I even sat there, scratched my head, go, did that just happen? Like, did that seriously just happen? So, if you do recruitment races, obviously it is a good tool to use to try to bring in some, maybe unfamiliar people. Do obviously set your expectations before that race takes place. I always go over my rules and stuff like that. But yeah, no. But a core group, to be honest with you, I kind of rambled on that one. But
It was fun
the,
though. It was fun
Yeah.
to listen to though.
but just the core group, I will say, our core group honestly goes back from when I started, and when a couple other guys, Max Terriel has been there forever. James Skelton's been there forever, just to name a couple of our core guys. One of them is now one of my admins. And they've helped grow over time. And, every once in a while you get that message, and I'm sure we've all gotten it. It's like, hey, I know this guy. He's a good, clean, respectful guy. I think he'll be good for the group. And, I'll always go, I always make the joke. It's be like, all right, but if he gets in trouble, I'm blaming you. Just have that fun with it. But it's also a cool feeling when you have that core group try to bring other people in, because that means they also really like what we're doing here. All the hard work that us as owners and admins are putting in is paying off. So I don't know about you guys with that, but like, how good does that make you feel when you have a core group like that, and you're seeing where you don't really have to do as much as the recruiting because they're kind of doing it for you?
Very much so. Just to your point there, Josh, speaking about how you're managing that scenario with the recruitment and so on, one of the things that we found, and it's a particularly unique thing to over racing, I suppose, where if a person is quick in qualifying, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be quick in the race, right? Whereas road course racing, very, very different. Like most of the time, if a guy gets pole, he's going to get out there and drive away from the field, where over racing, that is far, far from a guarantee. So we used to find a scenario, especially in the beginning of a season where you have oversubscribed grids, is we'd have really good, reliable core guys that showed up every week that couldn't make the field because they weren't particularly quick qualifiers. And then as those fast guys that were good in qualifying and weren't very good in the races on the race pace, they would drop away. Then finally you've got room for your regular guy again. But by that point, his season's over because he's not been able to score any points because he hasn't been able to get into the races. So we used to tweak the qualifying format a lot to try and lock in the guys who were there regularly. We locked guys into the field, say like the top 20 guys on safety. We did that for a while. We locked in the top 20 guys in points for a while and left the other spots open. So there's all sorts of these other considerations. And the thing that I'm sure all of you guys would understand is anytime you change something, you've got to be thinking not just 1 or 2 steps ahead, but you've got to be thinking 10 steps ahead into all the possible implications to what this could mean down the track, how whatever you're doing could affect the end of the season, the points. Is the scoring software going to play nicely with whatever you're trying to do? There's so many considerations. And while it's absolutely fantastic to have guys who are passionate about the series and come to you with ideas and so on, the thing about drivers is, as everybody who's driven in somebody else's league would know, as a driver, you never look beyond the end of your own nose, right? It's just like, this would be good, or this would be good, and this would be good. It's like, as an admin, then you have to turn around and say, yes, that would be amazing. But we can't do it because the knock-on effect 8 steps down the line is potentially going to be something negative that we can't solve. So there's so much, additional forethought that has to go into it, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Lowell said earlier, I mean, yesteryear really pulls mostly from the existing leagues like Red Light, OBRL, folks that want to race on Tuesday or can race on Tuesday. So we've really never had to recruit, and we're pretty. The tour mod I only let 40 people in, so we're pretty full. But I have let some people in that aren't, probably 3 or 4 that aren't part of the leagues. And I really rely mostly what I rely on, because I don't have recruitment races. Really, I rely on statistics. I want to see that they've raced short tracks. I want to see what their incidents per lap, incidents per mile, incidents per corner. I want to look at all that. I want to see experience before I let somebody in. But there's a few guys that I've let in, and so far, knock on wood, it's worked out. Well, there are people that want to get in that just, I've got to limit it to 40, because I don't want, you can't have 40 people showing up at Hickory. It's just not going to work. So that sort of 25 to 30 cars is pretty much where I want to be. But yeah, I use Sim Racer Hub a lot, and look, I'm a kind of a data guy anyway, but I do look at that. But I hear what you're saying about, sometimes guys are fast. I've seen people that, some in OBRL and other leagues that are very, very fast, can race with the fastest people in the league, but they don't necessarily know how to race. And that's at least we're talking ovals here. That's a different being fast and knowing how to race and getting the strategy that goes into something like OBRL. And yesteryear, some of our races are longer, so you have pit stops to think about. That's a different skill set than a lot of folks, I guess, on the platform have.
Yeah, just short track in general. You've got, I mean, you can bust out a fast lap, but you've got to be able to race in traffic, and you've got to be that league guy that learns everybody else in the league and shows up every week so we can learn you. And that, to me, is the number one reason to be in a league is you race with the same people every week. But yeah, there's a difference between busting off a fast lap and racing in traffic, especially on a short track.
Yeah, I do have to go back real quick to the stats thing. We use that as a huge thing. Someone applies to the league, the first thing we go and we look at their stats, average incidents per race, the corner, exactly what you were saying. And I'll actually pass that off to my other admins for each series and be like, hey, this guy applied for this series, and first thing we go over the stats. What do they look like? An official, this and that. Look up SimRacer Hub, which, by the way, for people that don't know, SimRacer Hub is a great tool for league racing points. We use it at Red Light for our point systems. It works great. It used to be called Dan Lisa back in the day. Now there's a new group that took it over, and they're doing a great job with it over at SimRacer Hub. I believe, Lowell, you're using that as well, if I'm correct.
Yes. I think everybody should be. I was never sure that Dan Lisa was going to be around, and it turns out I was right. But then when Clinton came along and took it over and rebranded it, I went straight to him and I said, listen, I've got a lot of years of results that I need to put somewhere. How serious are you? Are you going to stick with this when you started? And he assured me. And then for 2.5, I'm not joking, and of course it's in our spare time, but Donnie Moore and myself for 2.5 years uploaded race results to SimRacer Hub, and of course created each league and each series and each season in order to do that. And it was hard in the beginning. Now it's a little more user friendly and quicker, but that was at the time it was over 3,000 sets of results that we uploaded there. But it's a huge undertaking, and it's just a great tool for a league owner. Yeah, I don't know. I could go back and think about it, but I don't really want to. But I don't know how we did it without SimRacer Hub. That's a great deal he's got going on over there.
Yep.
When you started, Alan, what was your thought on rules? And I hope my power's not about to go out. What was your thought on rules and penalties to go along with the rules, and what route did you take on that?
Yeah, I wanted, being sort of a history guy, and what we do at Yesteryear is we rerun actual seasons that have happened in the past. Tour mods is our main series. I just let the rules of the time period be my guide. So we race this year. We kind of went back to 1966 and are rerunning some of the races that happened back then. Last year was 1990. And really the things like the point system, things like, back then there was no such thing as lucky dogs and, wave arounds and stuff like that. So I really let history be my guide. And it's a tough deal. I mean, you talk about racing without wave arounds and lucky dogs. I mean, you go a lap down, you're pretty much going to be stuck there. That's a big deal. And it takes some people getting used to, especially because we have, longer races sometimes that need pit strategy. So you really got to think about how many tires you're going to change. But there are some things that we had to, we are sim racing after all. So we do have a penalty, a drive-through penalty at 13 incident points. You're disqualified at 17. And the way that I sort of thought about, I went round and round. I'm like, man, how am I going to do this? the way I sort of thought about it was, my justification was, hey man, if you got 13 incident points, that means you probably had some rub-ins with somebody, several rub-ins. And in real life, you're probably going to need to come into the pits and get something repaired most of the time. And so that's kind of how I thought about that. But we do have the incident limit that obviously didn't really happen in history. But for the most part, I try to let history, number of laps, rules, point systems, I try to let that sort of be my guide, just because I think a league has to have a differentiating aspect to it to be successful. Ours is a little different because we do a real season. We don't race every week. We do history. I think any league, like Red Light, you guys that do modifieds, that's a differentiator right there. Lowell does like a nice Saturday night, basically go to your local track, kind of set up and see some street stocks, see a few races. That's unique. Of course, OBRL's unique thing is racecraft. So I really think you got to have something unique that keeps people coming back, that sort of differentiates yourself from the crowd. And in yesteryear is really the history aspect, and the rules and the whole deal is kind of really based around that.
Yeah, I already know the answer to this, Ed, but how are you handling rules and formats and whatnot at the Skitter Creek Drivers Club?
Well, I just want to touch on something really quickly that Alan said, because I think the incident point limit is something that we've all toyed with. Certainly in my NASCAR league, we ran the exact same thing. And just quick canvas across the people here right now. How many times have you heard I got 13 incidents and none were my fault?
Yeah, right.
Well, you heard that, old chestnut?
I've said that.
We used to get that all the time, and I used to say to guys, "I'm like, 13, really? You got 13, and you didn't have anything to do with any of them."
That happens to me all the time. I mean, I get all the time. I have nothing to do with it.
Of course it does, Josh, right? Yeah.
It's like, they'll send a protest in after the race, and they'll be like, "Oh, this guy gave me 13 incident points." It's like, no, that guy gave you 4 incident points. Where did the others come from, mate? Where the others come from? Were they just same bloke? But as far as we're doing it over there at Skitter Creek, we're trying to keep it quite casual, because the whole point behind it, look, and this is something that I think that all of you guys do really well. I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I do that, so we'll live. But that all of you guys do really, really well is capture the actual culture of what you're trying to replicate. So in terms of you guys that are running grassroots stuff and local short track stuff, you guys capture the atmosphere of that really, really well, with the way that you set up everything, with the way that you do the broadcasting and the atmosphere you create around that and everything. It's not super, super professional, serious like a NASCAR Cup Series might be, or the Coke Series might be, but it's also not, show up, have a go, crash into who you want. People care about it enough, and they tend to take the same attitude to it as they would take to a normal Saturday night short track race. So you've got to hit that. And it's very, very easy to go too serious and wind up with a rule book as long as your arm, or keep it too casual and get to the point that nobody feels like they can get through a race without getting run over. So it's very important to try to replicate the overall feel and culture of whatever type of racing you're trying to replicate. And so in the case of us over at Skitter Creek Drivers Club, we're trying to replicate the country club at VIR. So, this is not professional racing. These are guys that are, we're trying to create the feeling of people racing cars that they actually own and would have to fix if something went wrong. So we are, we do have rules around leaving each other space and not crowding each other over the edge of the track. The type of rules that you would see in a club level race where you're dealing with amateur race drivers. You have different sets of rules to keep it quite clean. So, you must leave racing room for somebody if they have an overlap on you. And if you mess that up, it really depends on the seriousness of it. If you flat out smash a guy off the track because you get mad with him, well, goodbye. We'll never see you again. But if you're just getting a little bit aggressive, rubbing doors, maybe run a guy onto the grass, maybe that's going to be a warning, and we'll keep an eye on you next time, or something like that. So in terms of the rules that we run, we try to stay very, very faithful to what we would expect to see at a club racing event where you're dealing with amateur drivers.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Good job. I like having a co-owner in a league. This is awesome. I don't have to answer any questions or do any work. Josh,
That's why you brought him in, right?
Yeah, exactly. Josh, you had the rules, I'm sure, when you took over RLR.
Yeah, no. Basically, it's a very kind of what Ed was talking about there. It's a very simplistic rule book. We're not, and I don't mean this by any league that does this. Teach their own. It's perfectly fine. It's just what works for us, and it's been working for so long. It's kind of one of those, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Our rules, I think we have like 8 rules, and we go over them before the race every time. Simplistic rules. If you can't figure it out from the 8 rules, like obviously things like intentional wrecking are not allowed. If you do it, most likely you're done. If you're a guy that's been around for a long time and you do it, you probably get parked for a race or two. And if you do it again, then we're done. But our rules are very basic. You know, you go on green. You know, leader has choice of outside or inside on the start and restarts. There's no change in lanes before the start finish line on the start and restarts. Sean, remember that next week.
He's calling people out here.
Only because it just happened. Just to go back, we were just at Stafford. Sean was leading the race. He was having a good time. Some restarts. He would change lanes before the start finish line on everyone. So
mate, if Sean never comes back, this is why. I'm just saying.
He'll be back. Don't worry, he'll be back. No, Sean's a good guy. Don't get me wrong. He's fast. He even knew. So it is what it is. But again, you know, you have to uphold the rule book. Which was unfortunate because we were at Stafford and that was a playoff cutoff race. So the top 12 made the playoffs. He was supposed to make the playoffs post the points race. However, the way we do our with certain rules, if we're found after the race, upon review that you break a rule like changing lanes before the start finish line, you're put at the end of the lap that you finish on. So with that penalty, unfortunately, he wound up missing the playoffs. So as much as I felt bad because I'm the one that kind of got put in the playoffs because he got penalized,
I
but
see
again,
how this works now.
Yeah, exactly, right. This is where the joke comes in. Oh, sure, the admin
Getting the gist of it.
None of us has ever been accused of doing that. No.
Oh, I'm sure we all have. But trust me, it's not the way I wanted to. I much would have rather been where I was before I made the mistake, and I would have been in, and it would have been fine. But as an admin, you can't play favorites. You have to play the rules as you put them out. So we had to be like, we all got together. It's not just me. I have a group of a total of me and 2 more admins for each series. So that way, if we disagree on something, there's always not a 50-50 vote. There's always either 2 people agree or 3 people agree, whatever. So we all came to the review and we all went. Obviously, he's clearly changed lanes multiple times, so we had to issue the penalty, which he was fine with. Worked in my favor. It is what it is. But as an admin, I think that's the biggest thing, and I'm sure you're all going to really agree with this. Stick by that rule book. Don't get shady. Don't be trying to play favorites on people. Just stick with it. If you gave Sean this penalty for changing lanes, the next time somebody does it, it has to be the same penalty. You can't sit there and go, oh, we're going to park you for a race because you did this. And then what happens? Oh, how come you only gave him an EOL? Like, how does that work? So, you do have to be prepared, even though as simplistic as a rule book might be like ours, you have to be ready for what your plan is when those penalties do arise. If, say you had a guy that's been in your league for 3 years and he's never been an issue and all of a sudden he just intentionally wrecks this guy. So, I mean, straight up, there's all evidence, like there's nothing to protect him. It straight up happened. What do? So we came up with a plan. The immediate thing, per certain parameters, it's a 4-week suspension. If we are finding that you intentionally wreck someone, you are parked for the next 4 weeks. I don't care when it is. It could be the playoffs, whatever. You made that decision. You deal with it. But then after that, if it's done again, you're gone. I don't care if you've been here a decade. It could be granny hips getting booted if I do that. But that's just sticking with the rules kind of thing. But I do go back to I know a lot of leagues, and I'm good friends with a bunch of people that run leagues that have laundry list rule books, and that's fine. It works for them to where they have, just like NASCAR does with the Section 5, -8, Section 43. I don't have the time for that. And it's kind of one of those, we just hold everybody with integrity. It's just, you know what the rules are. They're posted in the Discord. We say them before every race. So if you can't follow them, we scratch our heads a little bit, and we move on and we do what we have to do. That's part of being an admin or being a league owner. But again, I don't believe in the laundry list of rules, because even though I've done it before, where I'll go into another league and I'll try to run and I'll be like, I hope I'm remembering all the rules, because their thing was a Bible long, and hopefully I'm not missing something and things like that. But to each their own on it. Just it works for us. It's worked for so long, and it's kind of one of those, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
It's
Yeah,
funny that you actually mentioned that. Sorry to talk. It's funny that you actually mentioned that, because I've been in leagues as well where they sort of reiterate the rules before the start of every race. And like for us, it was always a case of, I used to use it as a little bit of an aptitude test. Like I would leave the rules there in the Discord and I'd say, read the rules before you do the first race. And then if it becomes plain at some point that they haven't read the rules, it's like, that's an extra thing to say, well, mate, maybe if you can't read this very simple document here, maybe you can't understand the finer points of what we're trying to do, and maybe you need to go find somewhere else. But another thing that I think that you just sort of briefly touched on is the challenge of, I mean, let's be honest, most of us who have started leagues have done so because we saw a gap in something that we personally wanted to race, which didn't exist in the format or the time that we wanted to do it. So that's generally where it comes about. So one of the additional challenges is actually not only being a league owner that races in his own league, but then when you get to the stage where you're actually competitive and you're up there challenging for wins and championships and things like that, it becomes more difficult. It's a very, very tight and difficult to walk tightrope, trying to balance out the trying to give transparent fairness as far as the way that the league is run, and also doing very, very well yourself, which is also, it's good to have other guys around you so you can point to that and say, hey, I was involved in this incident, but these guys made the decision. It was nothing to do with me. But at the same time, being the guy who wrote the rule book from scratch, it inside and out. And so there are plenty of times when you'll run into, there'll be an incident with somebody and you'll come out on the good end of it because you know what the rules are, and the other person might be a little bit less well informed. And then it brings up all kinds of, the easiest thing for somebody to do is not to take responsibility, but to blame some sort of conspiracy against them. And you're obviously an easy target when you're an admin who's also competitive. So, I wonder, is this something that you guys have experienced? I'm sure it is. But it's certainly something that's been a bit of a bugbear of mine over the years.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. And I probably mid last year and yesteryear, and Lowell, you probably be the expert at this. I pretty much gave up on possibly ever winning yesteryear, because what I really had to do is compartmentalize and just say, my primary function at yesteryear is to make sure it's the league comes first. Well, you're right in that I started the league because wouldn't it be kind of cool to race this? But when you get in it and you're just like, well, I'd rather see a good car count and a clean race than, and I crash out, than to really, I'm going to compete, but if I want to race for a league title, like last year I raced bootleg, I raced the SKs and late models, and I was close in SK, but I came in second. But I gave it a try, but I didn't have the weight of actually all the things that you worry about with league ownership. I didn't have that weight at SK, or if I were to do that at red light and free myself up on Thursdays for 4 months or so and make a really good go at it, I wouldn't have that weight of having the league sort of take precedent. I don't know if that makes sense, but for me, it's almost like I just convinced myself, like, I'm never gonna win yesteryear, man.
that's perfect. You made perfect sense. I go race. I go race the modified series at yesteryear, and I see something, catches my eye, and then I think, oh, that's Alan's problem. I'm just here to race. He can deal with that later.
Do you guys find though as well that when you're actually racing, like say for example, you if you're racing in your own league and you want to go for a move on somebody, there's always that little voice in the back of your head that is like, if this goes wrong, how's that going to look for the league? Very, very difficult to win things like that, when you're thinking about a greater good rather than just your own personal selfish ambition during the race.
Yeah, and back to the rules thing. When I brought BRL back to life in 2012, I had no rules, and I had one guy, Matt Hoos, who most of you know,
Yeah.
helping me with recruiting and all that headache. And after a while, it became apparent that we've got to have some kind of structured rule system here. And I'm like Ed and everybody else. I didn't want to have to number my rules because there's so many of them. And so we came up with some basic stuff, common sense stuff. And for the longest time, I was the one reviewing everything and making the decisions. And after the league got bigger and bigger and we had more series on the weekends, I thought, man, I can't keep doing this. I'm going to have to get some help. Well, Matt came up with the idea of bringing in drivers from the league, people that, we got a core group now. We know who's who and we know who we can count on and who will be honest. So we brought in, I don't remember how many it was at the time, but a couple of teams worth of drivers to rotate every week reviewing cautions. And it makes a big difference when your peers that you're racing with every week are reviewing the incidents. And of course, if they were involved in it, then pass it on to somebody else. But yeah, rules are a must. Penalties, and to go back to that, you have to be honest and you have to be consistent. You can't give one person a certain penalty for an infraction and give another person a different penalty for the same infraction, especially if it's me.
Yeah.
It's especially the league owner or league admin, like we talked about earlier. That's not something we want to do. I've been suspended a few times from BRL, and I'm thinking maybe I should just go back to doing this myself. I got in
Well,
less trouble when it was just me doing it.
the one thing you're never going to get is expelled from the league, though. So,
Yeah, that's right.
so,
Yeah.
there's
It's like,
that.
go ahead, ban me for life. I dare you. Yeah. I had no idea, but Steve Hilbert at BRL does. He handles stats. He puts out a stat of the week every Thursday. And last week, or the week before, part of his, I don't know why he snuck this in there, but there's like 46 people have been banned for life since 2012
Yeah,
in the
I saw
Bootleg
that.
Racing League. And I'm thinking, really? I've kicked that many people out of here? But
How about
it wasn't all
right?
that
You
fun,
actually
but
you actually find those people, right? Because there's enough there for a good league,
that's
right?
right.
Get all the
Yeah.
people that were banned and then
Yeah.
throw them in just a no rules race and broadcast that, because that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I'm not going to name names, but there was a handful of guys that basically got banned around the same time frame, within a few months of each other. They were all just serious troublemakers, and they actually went and started their own team. And I can't say the name of it, but it all had to do with being banned from BRL. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, you guys go over there and hang out with each other. That'd be a great place to.
Yeah, you guys deserve each other. Off you
Stay
go.
to yourselves there. Yeah.
I think my list is like 3 or 4 names on a ban list. Other than that, I don't get that crazy, but maybe I've been lucky. I don't know, but literally it's about 3 or 4 names.
Yeah, well, I can promise you that everybody that's been banned from BRL, I gave way too many chances. I have been accused of doing that a lot because it's not something I like doing. People don't think about it, I guess, but that's not an easy thing to do, to tell somebody, hey, we don't want you here anymore because of this or that, and so don't come back.
The best part is the message that you get in response.
Oh,
I've
boy.
had that where we let a person in, fast guy, don't get me wrong, speed, but he literally moved every single person coming through the field. At the end of the race, it was like, when we brought you in, we explained the expectation of what we were looking for. This obviously isn't it. We just feel like, it's not going to work out here. So we're just going to, cut our ties, just trying to be nice and, kind of professional about it. And the response I got, and I was just like, you sit there, and Lowell, I'm sure you've been there.
Yeah.
I don't think, Alan, you've really had to deal with that. Ed, maybe you have,
No.
but
Yeah.
I sat there for a minute, and I took a little screenshot of the response I got, and I sent it to my other admins, and I went, should I, or just leave it alone? And it is what it is. Like, you get people that are keyboard warriors. They're hiding behind a keyboard and they're going to say what they feel. It's fine. That's part of owning a league. That's part of running a league. You're going to get it. You'll get the people that key up in race chat. So they get wronged and they feel they got turned and they're blowing up race chat. What are you going to do about this? Yada yada yada. It's part of it. But those messages sometimes you grin a little and it's just like, should I say something or just let it go?
Yeah,
Guys, tell me if anyone can top this. Oh, sorry, Lowell. Sorry, I didn't mean to. There's a bit of a delay, so I didn't know
I
you
know
were
in Australia
sorry.
this kind of stuff just turns into bar fights. I know.
Tell me if any of you can top this, right? We kicked a guy out of our league, right? I won't say why, but we kicked him out. And he was a member of one of these teams that's fairly prominent and, who sort of believe that they're untouchable. Right? They think that we're going to be so honoured to have them there that we'll never do anything. They can essentially do what they want. Well, anyway, found out that wasn't the case, and we got rid of this guy. And within about 24 hours, I had multiple Discord messages there, including one from a current V8 Supercars real-life driver threatening to sue me for defamation.
Wow.
Got me beat.
You are big.
Not even kidding, mate. Not even kidding. I'd love to name the Supercars driver because he's an absolute prat, but I won't. Yeah, literally, that's the path they decided to go down. Interesting, considering I was working in a semi sort of legal field at the time and was completely comfortable where we were at. But obviously that's a tactic that they had used before and worked. And so they thought they'd try. And it went on for a while. Like it went on for a good few weeks. Went on for a good few weeks until I finally got them to, but these people are fairly low IQ and they disappeared off onto the next shiny thing as soon as the mood took them. But it was definitely their focus for a little while.
All I get's just plain out nasty emails. I can't even begin to describe them. They are so bad. I collect them though. I have a collection.
So out of curiosity, every league's going to do away, and I'm just going off of kind of a couple of the ideas here. But I am curious about this. So Lowell, you kind of talked about it a little bit. Like you used to do everything yourself, and it became a little too much. And you decided to bring in other people to help. So I did the same thing, where it was kind of one of those things, and I just felt like it was very hard to do, especially if you're trying to review all the races, go back to look at everything. And the best part is sometimes too, the opinion you have looking at a replay doesn't mean what it really is, and sometimes having an opinion of someone else brings a whole new perspective in. So what I did is I now for both series I have a group of admins, and I also have essentially what I call a backup admin. Kind of going back for a reason like Ed you were talking about earlier. When you're trying to review something, but say I'm in that incident that is in review, so now I can be completely taken out of that. Backup admins brought in to give his 2 cents on it. Those 3 discuss and go with penalty they feel from there, whether it involves, I'm the one getting the penalty or not. It completely removes me out of it. But I think having a group of people to help with the rules and going over replays, it's brought a whole different perspective, because I'm telling you, I sat there and been like, yep, throwing the hammer down, this guy's at fault, this is how I feel about it. And then all the other admins are like, hold, pump the brakes here, like look at this, look at this, look at this. No. And I'm like, oh, and I've actually lost those arguments before. That's a crazy thing about having admins, especially when you get outvoted, which has happened several times. My admins can tell you that. I get downvoted all the time, it feels like sometimes. But I do like that because I think it brings a better atmosphere for everybody who doesn't see like the behind the scenes. Sometimes it's like it's not just one person making the call, it's multiple people coming together and making the call. So I was just curious what you guys do and your thoughts on that.
Yeah, my incident review team, we call ourselves, we have 2 guys every week that will review all the incidents that cause a caution or a protested incident. And a lot of times, those 2 will see it different. They'll disagree. And at that point, we bring in a 3rd guy as a tiebreaker, so to speak, give his point of view, and that it works out well. Nobody's ever wrong. We just see things different. But it allows all of us, including the drivers themselves who were involved, it allows all of us to understand what page we're on and what we're seeing when we look at what they've done. And we also encourage drivers who don't do this is to go back and watch your own races, watch your own racecraft, and critique yourself. That'll go a long ways in helping you with your racecraft. Um, but yeah, that's way different than doing it all by yourself.
Yeah, yesteryear, I'm going to evolve to that. I'm going to just have to, but I'm fortunate in that, well, a couple things. We don't race every week, so I might have a couple of weeks to review a race, and I'm always harder on myself if I'm honest than I am on the other drivers. But again, because I have to compartmentalize and put the league first, but I'm going to have to just evolve to, having at least another person review the race or just get another look on it, just to kind of see, because it's a lot. Even though we don't race every week, it's still a lot. I mean, you still got to do it, and it takes time, and there's other things that go on that I have to put together in my league, do some research and stuff. So it's going to have to happen. But right now, I'm still kind of where you were, Lowell, earlier, very early in your league. I kind of do it myself, but that's going to have to change, and I kind of realize it.
Yeah, well, you're in a spot I was in years ago where I didn't have a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
Right now, we race 44 weeks every year.
Yeah.
That's just one series. We usually have 3, 4, 5 series running at a time. So that's a lot of cautions and a lot of incidents to look at. But
Yeah.
you're spread out over a year, and it's not easy, but it makes it easier.
Yeah.
And, I think you'll be fine. But when it comes time to call on somebody to help you out, I'm busy. Just so you know.
Yeah.
I got stuff to do. Point systems. This could be tricky. Do you guys use drop weeks? What are your thoughts on drop weeks, provisionals, or would you just prefer to use neither? Start with you, Alan.
Yeah. So again, with point systems, I let sort of history be my guide, and that whatever the system of the year series that we're racing, we're following that point system. With respect to drop weeks, the first 2 years of the Tour Mod season, we don't have any, again, because we only race 15 races out of a calendar year. But what I'm going to do next year, I thought about it, but I'm not going to do a drop week again, because we don't race every week, but I'm kind of going to steal from you a little bit, Lowell, because I think the next year's season we're doing, we'll be back to the Latford system. We're doing a season that happened to fall when they were still using NASCAR was using the Latford system. What I'll probably do is, something like, let's say there are 23 cars in the field and maybe a driver couldn't show up. They had to miss it. I will give them the 24th place points minus like 5 points or 10. I'll have to figure that out, minus something, because we're Latford system is, uses high points, minus something just for missing that. Cause I don't want somebody, you have things come up, you have to go to weddings, funerals, stuff like that. I don't want someone to get totally like, well, I can't win yesteryear, I'm out. So I'm going to have something, but I'm not going to do a drop week. I'm kind of going to do that we'll give them some points, but it's going to be the last place points and minus a, 5 or 10 point penalty, something like that.
What have you used in the past, Ed, I know what we're doing at Skidder Creek nowadays, but what did you do in the past for this?
Yeah, certainly when we ran when I ran my NASCAR league, we ran the same points. We ran the points that they normally run, the modern NASCAR point system. We did run a couple of series for the 87 cars as well. We ran the points from that year. So yeah, we just follow what the real life did.
Yeah. Josh, what's Red Light got going on over there?
Yeah, so again, same with kind of our rule book. We're a little more on the lax side. We understand life. We all have them. I'm married with 4 kids. It's going to happen. It's going to be inevitable. Something happens and you have to miss a race. So we try to be as lenient as we can. However, our seasons are only, 18 weeks long, which I say only, it's pretty much week after week until we take like a month break. But so, we give one drop week, which basically means, if you do make all 18 races, one of those races it's just like it's written off to take the eraser. It doesn't even count against your points. So essentially, if you're racing 18 weeks, only 17 weeks of points are going to count. So even if you missed a race, then obviously that 0 points is just negated and you're fine. But if you raced all races, but you finished dead last in one, that race is a race. So that way it doesn't hopefully hurt your points as bad. But it's just it's worked for us just because life always seems to happen with people. We make nicknames for certain people. We like to call like some guy we call him part time for a reason, which he's been a lot better as of lately. Don't get me wrong, but we called him part time because he seemed to I'm gonna make this race, and then something came up and he wouldn't make it, and I had to remind him. I was like, you get one drop week, not 7. Just saying.
Yeah.
Hence why you got the nickname part time. But no, it's trying to be respectful, but in the same, trying to also give to, the point systems that you guys do are pretty much the same. It's like, you're also rewarding the guys that take the time to commit to the times to show up, just like I do, just like we commit to the time to put all the time into, set the schedules, get everything going, do everything that we earn to get it going. So you're trying to play the balancing act, but at the same time, I feel it's at least, a decent thing to do to give, if you're not given a provisional drop week, something like that, just because life does happen sometimes. I've even had it where I'm 30 minutes into practice and, my wife comes and gets me, there's an emergency, we need to go. And I wound up missing the race and it was nothing of my own fault. So it's a bummer because you look forward to that. But then in the back of the mind, I do have a drop week. So this will just be it, unfortunately. But that's just the mindset we've always had. It works for us. I know every league is different, but yeah, that works for us.
Yeah, for the longest time, BRL had nothing. You missed. And we didn't have, aside from doing it manually, we didn't have the ability to do provisionals. So we just didn't do anything. And I've got nothing against leagues using drop weeks, but I look at it a little different than most people. When you have a drop week or two in a season, the only people that are giving up points from dropped races are drivers who were there every week. If you, driver A, miss a race, you're not. That's a drop week for you. You're not giving up any points because you didn't earn any points. Everybody else has to drop a race, and it's their worst results. I understand that, but they're giving up points regardless, points that they earned, even though it was a bad race. So you're basically bringing a group of people down to the level of somebody who had to miss a week. And again, nothing wrong with missing a week. I just it strikes me as kind of backwards to take points away from everybody else. And when you say I got a drop week because I missed a race, well, you're not dropping anything. You're not losing any points. Everybody else is just coming back to you a little bit, and it works both ways. But now we use provisionals, and we do our point system is 1 point different per position. So we give provisionals, which is last place plus 1 point, or minus 1 point. So it's basically you get 1 point less than the last place guy in the race for a provisional, and that helps. Uh, it's great to do things like that for guys that have to miss because, like Josh said, everybody has to miss races. Things come up, but you also want to keep rewarding the guys that make a point of showing up every week when they can and supporting your league. So that's my take on it. I hope I don't start an argument.
I actually, you're the first to actually make it. That's actually a pretty valid point. I like that. I've never actually had someone, or at least that I can remember, come up with that kind of a point on the whole drop week thing. So I do like that. The way that you worded that, that does make a lot of sense. And as soon as you were sitting there saying it, I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, wow, the fact that no one's brought that up to me yet. Oh,
Yeah.
Well,
It's
most people
interesting.
You don't think about it. You just think drop
Yeah.
weeks. Everybody thinks, well, I can just drop that one because I missed it. Well, you're not really dropping anything. You're making everybody
It's
else
funny.
drop points. Yeah.
I actually agree with you on that because we stopped running drop weeks simply because, well, the main reason we stopped doing it was the fact that the drop week, excuse me, as far as Sim Racer Hub goes, it doesn't drop it until the very last race really is completed. So nobody really knows, no one can track where they're at points rise it's very difficult to do because then you have to factor in that drop round that only gets applied by the software come the last race, right? So going into the last race, it's very hard to
But from the,
understand how many
that's
points.
not
I know
entirely
this.
accurate.
I know this because of the broadcasting, and we keep points on
Yeah.
our race. But from race 2, it's showing drop weeks.
If you
Okay.
if you
They've
set
obviously
it, but
changed
you
it
have to
then.
set it. Yeah, there's a setting
right.
that you have to go to.
Yeah.
So I get this question all the time when we do we get 2 weeks into a race and I update the points, but I also updates how many races you're supposed to allow and how many drop weeks you're supposed to allow. So when the points come in, it's going to show points for one race, which will be your better race. And so people will be like, why is it only showing one race? Well, it's because the drop week is already in count. So once we get to the next race, you'll see it counts for 2 races. So it depends on how it's set up, but the way they do it now, I go through and I do it on week 2 just to have it out of the way. So that way for broadcasting purposes as well, it makes life a lot easier to have an idea of where the points are at the end.
Well, I didn't mean to
Yeah, they
interrupt
didn't
you,
used to
Ed,
have that
because
setting, did they?
I didn't
Yeah.
realize. I don't use them, so I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you could set that at.
But the other thing to remember as well is that your fast guys, you guys who are actually going for the championship, these guys are the guys who show up generally every week, right? So they're the ones who are dead set serious about it. And when you think about like a really good, very capable guy, he's only going to have one bad result out of the year. He's only going to wait, well, when I say the year, the season, he's only going to really make one mistake. So having a drop round as well in there actually gives him a get out of jail free card for that one mistake and removes that, I guess, additional part of jeopardy of the one of the very top guys making a mistake and that actually impacting. You're removing the ability for that mistake to actually impact as well. So, you know, that's another reason why we sort of did away with it, is the fact that we don't want to be giving these guys who are almost perfect the get out of jail free card so they can actually be perfect. You know, they need to be. They need to pay for their mistakes in a way.
Yeah,
So there's
that
also that consideration.
makes sense too.
And Lowell, you only allow one provisional, right? You don't have like, well, you can do 2 or 3. You only do like, you can have one provisional. Is that right?
Yeah, we only do one
Yeah,
because our seasons are only 11 races.
Right.
So
Right.
you
Yep.
know, you get one get out of jail free card.
That makes sense. Yep.
Now, if we
All
did
right.
more than 11, of course, we'd probably do more.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
curious on this because Lowell, I honestly don't know how you do this. Alan, I don't think you really do this, but I'm always curious of this because I've been trying to evolve in recruiting and doing all of that kind of stuff, bringing in new people like that. I used to be very simple, do the put hosted sessions, recruitment races with the expectations, what you're looking for, things like that. You post in the the Facebook groups for iRacing, the different ones that you're part of, to try to bring in new drivers for following seasons, just to try to get the field counts up a little more, maybe a little more consistent on staying in throughout the season. I don't know if I'm starting to become outdated with this because it doesn't seem to work as well, especially since iRacing now has the forums. I used to just message people if I was racing with them in a forum. And just message the driver through the iRacing forums being like, hey, I had fun racing with you, didn't know if you had any interest. However, it's a lot more difficult now because not everybody is in the new iRacing forum. You actually have to sign up for it. So I can't tell you how many times I've gone to try to message someone and they're not even on the forum. And after that, I have no point of contact for these guys. So this is honestly, it's one of the topics that I thought about coming up with, but I was just curious on maybe it's different ideas that you guys have on how you do your recruiting, if you do it at all. Obviously, Alan, I know this is a little different because you kind of recruit within per se, but I'm just curious on different ideas for recruiting that you guys have done over the years or are doing now.
I think it's a little different for yesteryear, but at the same time, I'll say that I think being on VGN is a bit. I can't tell you how many, especially with iRock, I can't tell you how many messages I get of YouTube messages like, hey man, how do I get into that? How do I join? How do I get into that? And it's sort of like, there's been a lot. Also, I have a dedicated website that I do have a place, and I haven't gotten a ton of. One guy that did come in through the website, I did let into the league. He wasn't affiliated with any of your leagues or OBRL, but again, I think, I mean, I'm not really recruiting actively, but I think just being on VGN, I've gotten a ton of messages, especially more so on iRock, which I guess kind of makes sense, but about like, how do I get in, man? What do I need to do? And it's just like, but beyond that, I don't, have recruiting races or anything like that.
Yeah, for our open series, which at the time is a street stock series, they can sign up on the website. But I've so many years here at iRacing that we just don't really need to go out there and recruit, and I certainly don't ever want to go run a recruitment race again in hosted sessions. Me and Matt Hoos did that, and we don't want to do it again. Yeah, honestly, I just really don't have to. There's 3, 4, 5 guys a month signing up for the street stock, and maybe 1 or 2 of them will stick around and work his way up into other series. But yeah, it's not really a good question for me. I can't help you any because we just don't have to do it anymore. I remember years and years ago, probably 2011, Soup here at VGN ran an MX5 World Tour, and he ran that league. And he told me, and it stuck with me all these years, if you want to have 30 cars on the track, you've got to have 80 people signed up because they're not all going to show up. And I'm thinking, I'm running short track stuff. What if I did have 55 guys signed up and they all showed up at South Boston on the same night to race? That would be a big problem. But it's never happened. We've got like 60 some members, and 20, 25 car field is an average for us, which is a good average. But yeah, you got to have a lot of people. But I wouldn't know how to go out here. I wouldn't want to honestly go out here and try to recruit drivers nowadays. So you're on your own.
I mean, what we're doing seems to be working. I'm not complaining. I'm always curious about that kind of stuff. So it was just like you always hear something and you're just like, oh, that is a great idea. I never thought of that.
Yeah, after a while, you've got that core group, and somebody mentioned it earlier. They have a friend, and they bring them in that way, and that's the best way actually to bring new people into your league is word of mouth and people that
Absolutely.
your members have raced with and know them well. That's the best way to do it.
I think, I also think that there's a good way that is probably, I think you've seen some of this, Josh, and I know there's just been some cross pollination just from, you've had an OBRL or bootlegger or whatever, go race some red light. You've had, vice versa, maybe go race bootleg. I know Kenny Allen's in there sometimes. So, I mean, I think that's one sort of really good way because that if it's a quality league and someone's doing a crossover, like if someone wanted to join yesteryear from, red light or bootleg or any of the OBRL, I have no problem. They're automatically in because I know they're really good leagues. So I think there's been some of that too, some crossover, which has helped.
I'd say yes, because of yesteryear, we have people that's come over from OBRL and red light and others, and we've got people at BRL that go over and race those leagues, and all that's because of yesteryear bringing us all together and
absolutely
kind of making a group.
Well, I had to give something back since I was stealing your drivers a little kind of. I had to do something, man.
I always thought that was a brilliant idea, and I wish I'd have thought of it back in the day. So let's see. Well, we got time. Broadcast versus no broadcast. Does that make any difference? Do you guys think? As far as recruiting or finding decent people to race with, do you think broadcast makes a difference? Just anybody?
Yes.
I think the drivers.
Yeah.
I think it makes a difference with retention. I really do with retention. I think you're much more apt to retain your quality drivers if at least one of your, OBRL only has one of their series broadcasts, but it's a big one. It's their main one, and I know a lot of people, including myself, love it. So I would say yes. I don't know how you feel, Ed.
You had a thought there,
yeah,
Ed?
Completely agree. I think I think anything that, excuse me, I think anything that actually helps promote gives the series exposure is a recruitment tool, really. It's certainly like put it this way for me. That's how I found BRL. Right, I just finished watching the real life tour modified series highlights, and the next recommended video that came up was a BRL modified race, and that's how I found it. So I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's not a bad tool to have. My personal opinion, if I'm looking for a league, I don't care about a broadcast personally. I'm there to race and have a good time. So if you can put up a good race, and that's how Red Light started. We weren't broadcast. We were just out there having a good time. I think that got us to the point that we headed before broadcasting. However, broadcasting has really blown up, and it is a great recruitment tool. Don't get me wrong. Um, However, it is also one of those things that when you're looking for potential new people, you kind of watch out for certain things. Like when I'm going through reading through groups and you get the people that they're looking for a league and here's all their parameters. And the last thing they put, I have a 3,200 I rating. I'm looking for this, this, and this on this night. Must be broadcast. Right there is a turnoff for me.
Yeah.
Must be broadcast. So if you are not interested in running for the sake of running, just for the sake that you can go back and watch it, it's a crazy thing. They have replays that you can save, so you can still go back and watch it. However, it's not done as the way of a broadcast. So I think it has its uses to be a very beneficial tool, but sometimes can also bring some people just because your broadcast doesn't, it's not this is going to be the greatest thing ever. So I try to watch out for that. But do I think it's a great tool? Absolutely. I think it's a huge tool to have, especially nowadays. But in my personal opinion, I'm not leaving a league because all of a sudden they're not broadcast anymore. But that's just me and my personal opinion on that. As a, I know there's a ton of people that have, their friends and family that watch. Me, but my kids, they're at the age they don't really care what dad's doing as much. He's sitting in his computer. It's whatever. They're off wanting to play with their friends, so that they're not sitting there trying to watch. But for some people it's a great thing, but it does as a league owner, and when you're trying to bring people in, I do generally try to stay away from the people that are making such a big deal. It's like, if I come to your league, it needs to be broadcast. But retention is honestly, obviously another big thing. I do think that will help with the retention of keeping drivers for the long run too.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we've got just a few seconds left here. I have one funny story from all these years. Actually, I have 1,000 of them, but I'll give you one, and maybe you guys can pop in here with another one before we go. Uh, can't remember what year it was, what race it was, what car, track, short track is all I can remember. And the guy gets the lucky dog. He comes from the back and he's flying around through the field and rear ends the first place car, just totals them both. And he says, "Man, your car is painted just like the Mustang pace car. I thought you was a pace car, and I was going to drive right through you." And instead, he took them both out of the race. It was, it was just lots of crazy stuff like that's happened over the years. You hadn't been doing it long, Alan, but what kind of funny stuff have you seen?
Probably the funniest thing I saw
As
is
long as it doesn't involve me.
no, it doesn't involve
Okay.
you. This is before yesteryear. This is a while. I was running a recruitment race for a league. None of you guys leagues, but this is another league which I won't name. And it was a tour modified. It wasn't a very big league, I guess, but recruitment race was at New Smyrna, and had a guy try to bump draft me. And I was like, "Hey man, he just hit me." He's like, "Well, no, we bump draft here." And I was like, "No, dude, this isn't for me, man. You can't bump draft on a mod unless you're on Pocono. You can do it. Not a New Smyrna. You can't do it."
Well, it works that way at Daytona. Why not New Smyrna? It's in
Yeah.
Florida.
Right?
They're both in Florida, right? Tell us a funny one, Ed.
Look,
It's probably going to involve
look,
a bar fight.
no. Look, there are a lot. There are a lot, but I guess I'll probably probably after I get to the end of this one, I'll think of something else, and I'll be like, "Damn, why don't I tell that?" But the one that immediately springs to mind was actually a mistake that I made. It's probably one of the worst admitting mistakes that I've ever made, and it's so weird. So basically, there was a guy. He was relatively new to the series, nice guy, but a little bit green in terms of understanding the way that the racing worked and everything. And he was one of these guys that he ran afoul of the incident point limit, and he was saying, this is in my old NASCAR league, by the way. This isn't Skidder Creek Drivers Club. And he ran afoul of the incident limit and got himself a DQ. And he was in the Discord, and he wasn't too happy about it. And he was saying, "Look, I got involved in all of these incidents, and none of them were my fault." And rah rah. And at this particular point in time, that approach and attitude was a bit of a hot button for me because I used to hear it a lot, and I'm just like, I was just in a mood where I'm like, I'm not taking this crap, right? And I basically went back to him and I said, mate, you know, you got 4 incidents from this guy. Yeah, you did. Where did the rest of them come from, champ? You know, where did the rest of them come from, right? And I actually ran through a couple of incidents, right? And I was saying, this was your fault, and this was your fault, and this was at least partially your fault, right? So cut it out, right? And anyway, he had a bit of a bite back at me. And I wouldn't say that there was any kind of bad blood between us, but, you know, certainly looking from the outside, you know, if you were sitting there as somebody just reading this as a neutral, you would think that the two of us had an issue. It wasn't really the case. But anyway, the very next race, we were in the practice session for it. And I was just sort of scrolling through the field to just make sure that everyone had the correct numbers on, because, you know, when you've got custom numbers, you can paint on whatever you like, and it doesn't always correspond to the number that's set for them in the league. And so I was just going through that. And it just so happened that I got to this particular driver. And I'd right-clicked on, and for those who've never admined a session, when you click on a driver's little icon during a session, it brings up a whole bunch of options about, you know, admin options in terms of penalties that you can apply or black flags you can clear and all these types of things. You've got a lot of different options. And as I was scrolling down over the various options, and I wasn't really looking to do anything, I just had the option screen open, I got a twitch in the finger and I booted him from the session. I literally, it just all worked out this perfectly, and I've literally just gone and removed the guy like straight out. This one particular guy that it already appeared to everyone as though I had a beef with, and I've just booted him halfway through practice, and I'm like, how in God's name can I go onto the Discord now and say, sorry, my finger slipped?
You've got some
But that
splaining to do.
That is exactly what happened, guys. My finger slipped. I just had a little twitch in the finger, and
I've had that.
just booted him, right? And so I actually ended up to just like going to the guy like publicly saying, dude, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I ended up working out, giving him points for what his average finish was in the season. I think I actually ended up sending him some iRacing credits as well because I just felt so bad about it. But yeah, that's definitely one that stuck with me over the years. There are others, but that's definitely one of them.
So I'm sure everybody's had it happen, but this one, I remember specifically. It didn't happen to me, but it was just funny being there in the moment. And it's just one of those random things. So we get a guy on a restart who's, if he's ever towards the front, it's generally a strategy call, something like that. Anyway, he's up towards the front and everything's going, and all of a sudden you see a puff of smoke up front. We're under caution, by the way. So we're about to get ready. See a puff of smoke up front. I see a bunch of people keying up in Discord. What just happened? Blah, blah, blah. He downshifted, apparently too much, blew his engine in front of everybody. And we were all in a scramble to figure out what we were supposed to do. So, of course, like, he's trying to get off the track. But if I recall correctly, he was on the outside. So, the restart goes and everybody doesn't know what to do. And people are getting penalized. And it's just chaos. But it was just funny. What made me think of that, honestly, is the one time that I did something similar is everybody probably does it at some point. You scrub your tires, right? You get ready. Whether it works in iRacing or not, that's we can put a whole other podcast about that. But so I'm just getting ready and I'm going back and forth. Next thing I know, there's the outside wall and I'm heading straight for it. Blew my engine out of the outside wall. I lock up my car so it doesn't come spinning back down on the track into everybody. And I'm just sitting there going, did I seriously just do that? And at that point, you're going, did I seriously just do that? It's also the embarrassment. You are hitting that escape button as quick as you've done and you are gone. Like, I don't want to talk about it. I am out of here. I can't believe I did that. Yeah. So just as much as that guy blowing his engine up at the front there, downshifting, yeah, I've been there just in a different way, but that's when that happens to you, that's a pretty embarrassing moment.
Yeah. Alan, talk to us real quick about what you got planned for 2026.
Yeah, so I just on a high level, I think we are going to be going back to 1989 for the tour mods, probably another 15 race season. We're going to be doing the Latford system, so it'll be similar to the first year. races will be a little bit shorter, but there'll still be some long races in there where you need to think about pit strategy. And then for IROC, we have added the Drivers Club, Skidder Creek Drivers Club, the champion in the next 2 seasons of that, because the seasons are only 6 races long. We'll get an invite, as well as the Stars and Stripes League, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. There's some OBRL people that race in that. That's a fantastic league put on by Brian and Nate Lynch, who Brian runs OBRL. Serious high quality, high racecraft in that league as well. So their champion, they've already had one guy qualify. Their champion for the second, they only do 2 seasons a year. Their second champion will also qualify. And we're adding a race. There'll be a 5th race in IROC. I'm going to break from history, which is kind of tough for me to do, but that break between February and June was just too much. So we'll put a race in April, probably a road course. So we'll do 2 road courses, 3 ovals, 60% oval, 40% road course to make it, again, we're looking for all around kind of thing there. So that's kind of what, still debating on the tracks for IROC next year. Obviously Daytona will be there. Had a great race in Atlanta this past week. Fantastic race, but I probably won't do Atlanta 08 again, but got to figure out the tracks for that. But that's kind of what's cooking at yesteryear.
You're going to stick with the Cadillac?
I think I'm going to stick with the Cadillac. Yeah. I mean, it looks good.
I think
It's got
good.
the Easter egg colors out there, which is what the whole, Penske and those guys were kind of looking for when they created the series in history. The name pops up right very prominently on the side. It's actually a fun car to drive. If you guys never driven the CTSV, it's actually a blast to drive. It's a road car, but it does pretty well in the ovals too.
Yeah. Todd Liston did a great job painting those cars.
He did. Yeah, Todd Liston, and hats off to Todd for doing, yeoman's work and how that car looks. I mean, it looks fantastic on the track, on the broadcast.
What's Skidder Creek going to be up to next year?
Well, at the moment, I think it's very much evolution rather than revolution as far as we're going. We're still quite new, really getting that core user base nailed down. Guys that are going to show up every single week. And, we're pulling decent fields at the moment. I believe the aim is to probably get them a little bit higher than what they are, to the point that we can actually potentially look at doing a second, more serious series to go with the very casual club focus series that we've got right now. I know you and I have talked, Lowell, a little bit about what that's going to look like, but we'll keep that to ourselves for now. But yeah, certainly that revolves around having the base there to support it. So being quite early in our history, we're still sort of in the process of building that and seeing where it goes and what's possible. And it's so easy when you start a new league to grow too much too early. So we don't want to overextend ourselves or our core group of guys. And we're just going to see however long it takes us. It's going to take us. We're patient.
Yep. It's been a blast so far. What's Red Light got going on for 26?
Well, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. We are going to introduce Red Light Racing Scrambler Series, which is our Monday night scrambler, where we mix up the next-gen Xfinity car, the truck, and the ARCA car through a 15-week schedule. That's going to be coming to VGN for the first time in 2026. Schedule for that plans to start up just after the 24 Hours of Daytona for iRacing. I believe we're following the week after that. Schedule is still up in the air. We're working on that. We do a cool thing that we've done the past season or two, where we actually talk to our drivers. We do like a whole sponsorship thing. If they want to sponsor, they can choose the car track combo per league approval, obviously, just because, we got to stay within the cars that we run. And obviously, it can't be a crazy track that you don't really run. But it's had some really good success. So I'm interested to see what the schedule comes out. We've had some good races that we're doing this season, that like Stafford Speedway was a perfect example. We just raced there for the final race before the playoffs, and it's the first time we've been there in the Scrambler Series, and it was a lot of fun. And then, we're coming back with the Skidder Creek SK Modified Series for another season, pretty much around the same time next year. We'll be taking, once this season 14 finishes, we're going to be taking the holidays off and getting ready to kick it back up in 2026 and get going for another cool season. Again, that schedule we're still working on too. We are trying to figure it out, but exciting. We're just trying to see biggest thing right now is waiting to see the content that comes out from iRacing. If we're going to get more short tracks, then we're going to be implementing that into the schedule. So it's kind of a wait and see a little bit, but we got pretty much the dates going and everything else. It's just waiting for everything to fall in place, but we're excited.
We're excited at VGN bringing the Scrambler Series to life and the Modified coming back. That's going to be cool. All right, coming up next week or this week on VGN, Tuesday, August 26th, Yesteryear Racing's 1966 Tour Modified Series will be live in Stafford. You can catch Zach Chapman and J.R. Shepard on the call there. Thursday night, August 28th, Red Light Racing's Skitter Creek SK Modified Series will be at Five Flag Speedway. You'll hear Soup and JR on that broadcast. Saturday, August 30th, well, that's the late models. That's my league, and we're off for the Labor Day weekend. So I get a week off, guys. Sunday, August 31st, OBRL Yesteryear Cup Series. We didn't even mention it, but Allen's Yesteryear Racing League sponsors the Cup Series over at OBRL. They'll be at Darlington, and you can catch Zach and John Hine on that call. And then don't forget, every Tuesday, 9 a.m., this show right here, VGN Weekly, comes out. And we hope you'll join us again next week. You can see our full schedule and a bunch more information at virtualgrip.net. Thanks, Alan, and thanks, Ed, for joining us this week and putting up with me. I got voted to fill in for John. He'll be back next week. So appreciate everybody watching, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of VGN Weekly. Join us next time for race recaps, interviews, and much, much more. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. This has been a production of the Virtual Grip Network and the Skitter Creek Motorsports Group.